Salut everyone! In this video I want to talk about the release of Nobara 41. And this review has been one of the most like roller coaster of performance, emotion that I've been through since I started this channel. And I think you're gonna be interested by the little adventure. Are you ready? Let's get into it. As always, let's start with a little bit of context. What happened most of the time when I start to review a distro, I make a live with all the community, I install the distro on my hardware and I review it with you guys live on this channel. It's mostly like Wednesday and Friday. You come up, we test every aspect of the distro together. Like that you have a clear, transparent review of the distro when it comes to gaming and content creation. But for this one, it was kind of a little bit, I would say funny, because I did review the distro on a Friday. And the Saturday, so the day just after the live review, I had a full podcast with Glorious Eggroll, aka Eggy, for people who directly know him, or as we say in French, like pour les intimes. And something kind of bad happened on Friday. What happened is I had issue with the kernel and with the driver within the distro. The issue related to the driver was my own fault because I tried to set up things the way I knew them on Fedora, but Nobara do them differently, and we're going to talk about this specific subject later in the review. But also the kernel itself had some issue while gaming on Nobara. I had some type of freeze every 5 minutes while playing Marvel Rivals, and it's a bug I didn't have with any other distro. And the funny thing is we were able to fix the issue live on stream by switching the Nobara kernel to the CachyOS kernel. But the funny part of the story is that Glorious Eggroll watched the stream. And the day after, when we started to, do our offline preparation for the podcast, we had this discussion about my experience. And Eggy was telling me, dude, we solved every issue you had. I didn't sleep last night, and make sure with our team, we are providing the best experience when it comes to gaming on Linux. And I was like, already? And he was like, yeah. So what they did, they fixed the issue on the kernel. I'm going to talk about it after. And they pushed an update right away, which was pretty insane. So obviously I had a great podcast with Eggy, and I thank him again. But outside of that, me as a reviewer, of Linux distribution, even if I enjoy the company of Eggy, I still need to give you a really objective review of the distro and how it performs on gaming. So the next Wednesday, I did stream a full re-review of Nobara 41 with the latest patch and fixes from the Nobara team. And what you're gonna see right now is the actual small version of the review with all the different patches which have been applied after my fair live stream. Pretty good, huh? So as always, I'm gonna start with the really good part, and I would say the pro related to this distro. I won't go through the full presentation of Nobara. I've done it earlier. I'm gonna put a link to the video in the description below. Like that, you're gonna have an idea what Nobara is all about. But as a little shortcut, I would say Nobara is a Linux distribution based on Fedora and optimized for content creator and gamer. It comes with a lot of little nuances and patches that will make your full experience when it comes to gaming way better than a base Fedora. I'm not saying you could not get the same experience coming from a pure Fedora 41 installation. What I'm saying is everything is way easier if you go through the Nobara path, because all the, I would say work under the hood is already made for you. And sometimes work you never thought about doing. So when it comes to the new feature related to this Nobara 41 release, one I really appreciated is the fact that you can now install Nobara 41 without having any access to internet. This is a good plus, because if you want to do any type of offline installation and you are not in a possibility to connect to internet, well, you will still have a Nobara up and running, which is great. The second feature that has been added for this release is the fact that now Nobara has a great updater. It's a GUI that will update every package installed on your distro. It will include all the native package to Fedora and Nobara from their repo, but it will also include Flatpak. And the little plus, which is also added via this updater, is like all the patch, all the little like quirk as it's written on the changelog there, but also in the changelog within the app, are going to be applied through this updater. So to make the thing super clear, while you update through this GUI, not only is going to do the basic update for Flatpak and the Fedora update, it will also make sure that all the patch, all the little tweak which have been designed by the Nobara team are actually reapplied for each update. If you are using Nobara, I really encourage you to focus and use only like this GUI or the Nobara updater to make sure that everything is updated in the most efficient and accurate way possible. The second like little feature I found really cool with this updater is that the first time you start the distro itself, you boot and you arrive on your first screen, you're gonna have some type of script. We're gonna check if you have been updating your distro or not. And you're gonna have a pop-up which is saying like, hey, this is the first time you're booting on this distro. Do you want to make an update? And then when you click yes, the updater pop up. And this is a nice feature for all the newcomers to Linux because it makes the distro a little bit more like noob friendly, which is great. Now, when you look at the updater itself, I think it was also really cool is like you can notice that some packages are going to be like pick and choose by the Nobara team to make sure everything works well with specific application. One that come up is the Mesa like stack and also like the RockCM like application. They made sure like they were like both aligned to make the benchmark work properly on their distro, because sometimes if you have a big difference of version between like two of them, like, or if there is like they're not really aligned, you might have performance issue. So the Nobara team is making sure that it's going to be like a good experience on your end. And this is pretty good because not only is going to improve the overall benchmark overall, like and your ease of use of the distro, but it will also help in terms of like usage of specific application like DaVinci Resolve, for example. So now you don't have to worry about having the right version of RockCM, RockM or RockCM, I don't know how to pronounce this one, and the right version of Mesa. Like everything is totally ready to go for you, and this is really good. And now we talk about DaVinci Resolve, because this distro is obviously like for gamers, but also for content creators. This iteration, Nobara 41, comes with a new installer for DaVinci Resolve. And I did try it, and I do believe this is one of the best out there. Even me, which I'm using like CachyOS on a daily basis, or any type of like Arch distro, to be fair, but my heart goes to CachyOS because it's a little bit easier. I use an AEOR script to install DaVinci Resolve, and it worked very well, like don't get me wrong. But I believe like this version is a little bit better because first it's the full like GUI approach, and this installer is totally agnostic when it comes to the version of DaVinci Resolve, whether it's the latest version, whether it's the studio or not. You just launch it, you point the installer to your DaVinci Resolve like install file, and it's gonna install it without any hiccup. And this is a really good one, my friend. Now let's talk about this specific application which have been pushed for this new release of Nobara 41. It's called Nobara Tweak Tool. And this tool comes really handy if you don't want to go and edit some file to change some specific feature of Nobara 41. So I'm thinking about some specific like game scope session update, some like configuration related to your controller, some specific like tweak for the AMD GPU clock and power control. So instead of having to go and update them manually and check which one you want, like from a terminal approach, now you have these GUIs that let you like pick and choose the tweak you want to apply to your Nobara install. And the one that I didn't mention, which is also like one of the most important trick here, is the auto mounting disk partition on the distro. I had a discussion during the podcast with Eggy about this subject. I'm going to put a link in the description below because I don't want this video to be like 40 minutes. But I really encourage you to go and watch the podcast because I think like you're going to learn a lot when it comes to Nobara itself and this specific application. Overall, to me, this is a win. Now, I mentioned in the intro of this video that I had some issue with the NVIDIA driver. And the issue I had is like I tried to apply my knowledge from Fedora and try to apply them on Nobara and just didn't work at all because the way Nobara like set up their driver is through the perspective of Negativo 17. So this gentleman is part obviously of the Linux community, but he's also working for NVIDIA directly. And he has his specific approach to package the NVIDIA driver for Fedora and all like Fedora-based distro like Nobara. And Glorious Headroll and his team decided to implement his packaging of the NVIDIA driver on Nobara. And guys, this is really good. What I really appreciate about this repacking of the driver is linked to the fact that switching from the open module to the closed module right now on most of the distro is kind of a pain. Not on Cachy and CachyOS, like gaming distro, which are like in my top 5, I would say. But on the other one, it can be like it could be problematic. Here, in my opinion, this approach is one of the easiest approach out there. So long story short, you need to edit one file, regenerate your initramfs and your module related to the kernel, reboot, and you will be back on the proprietary blob, proprietary module, do it again and go back to the open module / blob, which is pretty good. So I had some issue because I didn't exactly know how it was working. It was my fault. But when I discovered how easy it was, I would say this is a banger. So because we are talking about the issue I encountered during my first live stream and review of the distro, I mentioned to you guys I had issue with the kernel. And switching to the CachyOS kernel during the live fixed my issue related to freeze in Marvel Rival. And so what happened since the review and the podcast, the team of Nobara did the test internally and actually found the flaws that I discovered during my stream. And they fixed it right away. Like less than 24 hours after my stream, it was fixed on their end. And I think this is kind of showing the type of attention to detail this team is pushing there and their reactivity. I think it's awesome. So now, for all the new users using Nobara 41, you are in fact using a kernel which uses most of the patch of CachyOS. The CachyOS kernel, which is, in my opinion, one of the best out there. So this is great. I had a top-notch experience during my second review. I didn't have any freeze. Everything was top-notch. And so I'm really happy about the fact that Nobara took this direction. So another good point for them. And now the last positive point is related to the new wiki of Nobara. So as I mentioned, I got lost during my first stream trying to fix the driver on my machine. Because long story short, my RTX 4090 only worked properly with the closed module and not the open one. And so I was kind of stuck trying to switch. I didn't know the way Nobara was doing it. Even it was super simple. When you don't know, right? And so what is going on behind the scenes, like for this release, they started to work on a wiki. And the wiki is becoming bigger and bigger as we speak. It's still a work in progress, but I can tell that there is a will from their end to, I would say, like give the documentation to all the users to have a better experience on Nobara. And this is really a good thing. So soon you're gonna have a really, really heavy, like in a way, like, you know, like dense wiki. If you try to tweak or get a little bit deeper into Nobara, you will have the resource to do whatever you want. And this is great. Now let's talk about the negative, because there is still and will always be like negative in all my review, even if this one is a pretty positive one, I have to say. The first one is related to the wiki. As I mentioned earlier, it's still a work in progress. And as we were like testing the distro for the second time, some of the wiki lines, they were not correct. So we fixed it on our hand. We discussed with the Nobara team live, like one of my community member went on their Discord, tells them like, hey, we found a little typo in your wiki. This is it. Like in less than 1 hour, everything was solved. So again, you might have a little bit of some hiccup because the wiki is still a work in progress. So take that in consideration. Don't forget to join their Discord to make sure that, you know, if something doesn't work right on your hand, maybe they need to update everything on their hand. But, you know, it is what it is right now. But I would say, like, this is a negative without really being a negative. It's a work in progress. So take that in consideration still. Now, another point which I have to mention, it's some little bugs. Okay, the distro, as you can see, is still like advancing like a lot and shaping itself. And you can tell like each iteration of Nobara is becoming better and better. The applications are better, the wiki is better, etc., etc. But there is still like some bugs left and right. So the first right I want to mention, so glorious Egrol and the team, if you want to look at this one, when you install Nobara through the installer, I got a white screen, and it's kind of annoying because during the install process, you have this big white screen, white image with nothing in it. And this is annoying because you get flashbang literally by the installer. And I'm pretty sure it's an easy fix, but it's a bug there and it's annoying, so I have to mention it. It won't change your experience overall after it's installed, but it's there. The second one is related to the upscaled experience you get when you install like the distro for the first time. So the distro I used was the NVIDIA KDE Nobara one with all the theme and everything. But the first time you arrive in the desktop, you will notice that there is an upscaling of the screen. So I think instead of being at 100%, you're at 125%. And some of the GTK app, and especially like the Nobara welcome app, doesn't scale up properly with this. And so when you move your mouse on top of the window, you will have a big cursor. So obviously this is not a real like Nobara issue, but it's a little bug, right? So maybe it would be good to let it at 100, you know, make it a little bit better. Some of you guys are gonna be like, hey, Max, like you're really like picking like little bugs, but yes, like this is literally my work here to like, you know, go through the install, do all the tests and give my feedback to you guys. But that's another like little issue. And voila, this was the review of Nobara 41. And it was a hell of a roller coaster. Again, because when I tried it the first time, I couldn't make it work properly. It was a kind of a pain. I fixed it on my own because I finally find the wiki page. Maybe I got lost in translation there. And then, you know, found the issue related to the kernel, was updated. And we have now, in my opinion, like the best Nobara release to date. So I sound like maybe like a broken record because each time I talk about the distro, I can see like all the improvements and I'm sharing with you guys. There is still like little bugs left and right, but I think like we are arriving like more and more to a real finished, like polished product. So, you know, I really like what I'm seeing there. I think in terms of performance, we're going to be like super happy about the direction the team of Nobara is going into. And I start to think that with the new latest feature, you know, like the auto mount, the fact that most of the different like key installation points, like now they go through the GUI, now they have like a specific GUI updater. I start to think more and more that this distro could be a really, really good starter, even for a newcomer to Linux. I would say like 2 or 3 releases ago, I wouldn't have done that because they were not at this point of like polish. But I think right now, I wouldn't be scared to recommend Nobara as a beginner, because they are already at a point where a newcomer will have a solid wiki, will have everything to go like through a GUI, and have this experience like of Linux make I would say like a little bit easier if they come from Windows or Mac. So when it comes to the content related to Nobara, I'm gonna put all my different like creation related to this distro if you are interested to get deeper into it. There is a great podcast I had with Egi like last week, so I already encourage you to go there and listen to him, because listening directly to the actual like I would say like main lead of the project is really interesting. And I'm planning to do like some tutorial like I did with CachyOS with Nobara, because I think we are at a point right now where you guys might be interested in those. So yeah, that's it for this video. As always, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe. I want to thank all the members from La Crème de la Crème Club which are supporting this channel financially. I couldn't be here without you guys, so I thank you again. And as always, see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous. Take care, guys.